So in this video, I'm going to talk about representing absolute value as the distance from 0. So we're going to talk about absolute value. And let's say, for example, we have this number 1, and it has vertical lines at the left and at the right. That's what you call absolute value. So we want to know the absolute value of positive 1 or number 1. The absolute value of 1 is just 1. So does that mean absolute value is just copying itself? Whatever is the number inside those vertical lines representing absolute value, you just need to copy that. Is that absolute value? Now let's try a negative number, negative 1. So is the absolute value of negative 1 also negative 1? It's actually also 1. So how come that absolute value of 1 is the same as absolute value of negative 1? So can you say that absolute value of 1 and absolute negative 1 is are just the same? So why are they the same? Same as absolute value of positive 3. It's positive 3. But if it's absolute value of negative 3, it's also positive 3. Let's say 5. Absolute value of 5 is 5. Absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. So even if it's negative, it becomes still positive. But if it's positive, it's just the same. It's positive. So it's not actually the opposite sign, because you might think that maybe it's an opposite sign. Negative 1 becomes positive. Positive 1 becomes negative 1, but it's not. It's always positive. So what is actually absolute value? Why is it always just simply copying itself and make it always positive? So let's represent it in a number line. And we have 1 coming from 0. The distance from that is 1 unit. And also, the distance from 0 to negative 1 is also 1 unit. Now, talking about distance, there's no such thing as a negative distance. Let's say you want to say that the distance from 0 to negative 1 is a negative 1 unit or centimeters. There's no such thing as that. Distance is always positive. And absolute value is actually a distance. That's why it is always positive. It's talking about the distance of that number from 0. That's why the absolute value of 1 is just asking what's the distance of 1 from 0. It's 1 unit. That's why the answer is 1, positive 1. And also, absolute value of negative 1 means what's the distance of negative 1 from 0? It's 1 unit as well. Same as with absolute value of 3. What is the distance of 3 from 0? So that's 3 units. That's why the answer there is positive 3. And also for the absolute value of negative 3 is asking for the distance of negative 3 from 0. So that's why it's 3 units. That's why it's also positive 3. So you cannot say negative 3 distance or negative 3 units, because again, there's no negative distance. It's always positive. That is the reason why the absolute value of any number will result always to positive. And also for 5, the same thing. It's 5 units from 0, and negative 5 is 5 units as well from 0. That is why the absolute value of a number is always positive. It's not the opposite sign. It's just always positive. If it's positive, retain it. If it's negative, make it positive. Now let's try to get the absolute value of these numbers. So these numbers are kind of big, so we cannot make a number line to illustrate it because it's 105, 200, and it's very, very, very long number line to make. So what we need is to just imagine it in our mind, the number line, because it's gonna be very long to draw. And then we are going to you just use the concept of the absolute value that it's a distance. So the absolute value of negative 105 is positive 105. Absolute value of 280 is 280. Absolute value of negative 500 is 500. Because again, it's 500 units from 0 going to the left because it's negative. And absolute value of negative 815 is positive 815. Absolute value of negative 2305. So of course you can draw this in the number line, but you can just imagine it. It's a distance from 0 going to the left to up to negative 2305. That's a distance of 2305 units. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have learned from this video. Please support my channel by pressing the subscribe button and write the math topics you want to learn in the comment section.